What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of MG Nights. I'm TyFly85, and today what I want to talk about is The Walking Dead Death Prediction Season 9, Part 1. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Now, I did want to go ahead and give you a possible spoilers, so here is your spoiler warning. You have been warned. Just in case any of this does become accurate or true, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but let's just go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? I went ahead and made this really cool little background here for everybody. So, fun times. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So, my first one up on the list. Now, I'm sure probably there's been so much stuff said, so many things flying around, so many different things when it comes to Maggie and Rick and all the different stuff, so it definitely will be very interesting to see overall how it does end up completely turning out, because I will be very interested to see how it all turns out for sure. But let's go ahead and start into my death predictions for Season 9. Before we go ahead and get started, I did want to go ahead and mention that me and Vin did actually record this video, and unfortunately I had some audio issues that were really bad and unfortunately could not be fixed. So unfortunately we've had a lot of scheduling issues that we haven't been able to record it again, but I figured since we're getting so close to The Walking Dead starting up here soon that I needed to get this out there. So I apologize, Vin, if you're watching this, but let's go ahead and jump right into my death predictions. So the first one up on the list is going to be Ezekiel. Now, Carol and Ezekiel will be shown getting closer, obviously, as we've seen through the years, which will be cool to see. If I had to guess, they're going to set up Carol and Ezekiel for us to get excited and invested just to kill off Ezekiel from the Whisperers, with his, basically from the comic book arc of King Ezekiel. So, for, like I said, spoilers for anybody, I'm going to talk a lot about the comics and different things like that. So if not of you familiar with it, definitely, like I said, spoilers. So, but his Whisperers, the arc in the Whisperers for King Ezekiel is when that whole thing went down, his head ended up on a spike. So it would be really interesting to see that. I wonder how they would pull that off within the show itself, because not that we haven't seen anything quite that crazy, but I feel like we've never seen a main character who we've grown with and grown to love and like in that particular situation. Do you know what I mean? I will say that the closest thing we probably had was Glenn with the baseball bat, or even Abraham. Probably Glenn, I would say, would probably be, if they do end up pulling this off. We'll see how much more gruesome it is from Glenn's death. But that'll be pretty interesting to see overall. Second up on my list is going to be Tara. Now, as far as Tara's death, I'm thinking that maybe it's going to be swapped with Rosita. Because if I had to choose one over the other, no joke, I think that I would probably, I would probably choose Rosita over Tara. Like, no offense to Tara, but I feel like see Rosita survive and Tara take over her comic death, which also happens at the hands of the Whisperers. So very similar overall to Ezekiel, but I think if I had to really choose between one or the other, I don't know. I kind of want to see Rosita keep going. I feel like Tara's kind of her story arc and everything that's happened there, with her showing up with Glenn and trying to make up for past mistakes and then that kind of stuff. So I feel like her character has been really developed, and maybe there's not really much more there to develop. I'm not too sure. But moving on, third on my list, I have Gregory. Now, I believe he will be killed off within the first 6 episodes, if not the very first episode. I seriously do not like Gregory. Gregory is probably like one of the hands down the worst characters I think that I've seen on The Walking Dead so far. As far as I don't know. Obviously, nobody's meant to like Gregory. Like, that's kind of, I think, the point. But I seriously don't like his character, and I know that's what his character was all about. So, but I just didn't care for it at all. I would like to see him get his comic book death. Now, obviously, spoilers for this one here in particular again. He tries to kill Maggie, but Maggie gets him, and then basically Maggie gets back at Gregory and ends up doing a public hanging in front of everyone. I think that would also be something that could be pretty crazy to see on The Walking Dead. Now, I know that they could probably pull this off without physically showing it. I mean, they can show him dropping for a quick second, cut away, and then we see his shadow, right, with the little swinging body. And then we know that he got hanged. So it will be interesting to see how they're going to pull that one off, because you know for a fact that they're going to do something with Gregory and this whole thing that goes on between that. So definitely looking forward to seeing how that goes down, because that is definitely happening. There's no doubt in my mind that that is going to happen. Now, the next one up on my list, now I know this one's going to be a little controversial, and a lot of people are going to be like, why would you even say that? It's blasphemous. But Jadis. And I love her character, and I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't really see anything else for her character beyond the helicopter. I mean, I know that after the Garbage People kid and all that stuff happened, and she was all alone, all of a sudden she stopped with the language, she started speaking more English, and she seemed a little bit more personable, right? She seemed more personable. She wasn't like this crazy weirdo that just lived in the trash heap. So I would love to see more from her, but I feel like she's going to be a key role in the Whisper somehow, but will die before by the Whispers. So I know that sounds a little confusing, but I think that she's going to have some kind of a major arc where we'll have to wait and see. But I think Jadis is going to be somewhat of a pivotal character this season in setting a lot of things up. So we'll definitely wait and have to see on that one, but I think Jadis is one to watch out for. Now, the next one on my list is Aaron. Now, I know that Aaron has had quite a bit of controversy, even though he did just lose his man in Season 8 and acquired a baby at the same time. I still think his days are numbered on the show, and Season 9, I think, is going to be that time. Now, as far as Aaron goes, I know he's had a lot of controversy, like I said. He's had a lot of heartbreak, things like that. But I feel like I just don't really know. I love seeing, Jesus and Aaron together in the few opening minutes. If any of you have seen the opening minutes for the new Walking Dead, I love seeing them together. So I think the interaction there, I'm excited to see that. But I just feel like Aaron is kind of, unless he changes something between when we saw him last to when it starts up again, I feel like if he's still kind of in that kind of mopey-ish type of mind frame, I don't know, that type of mind frame doesn't really get you far from what we've seen in The Walking Dead. If you kind of mope around of people's death for too long, like we've seen with the governor and his daughter, that obviously ended up getting to him in the end thanks to Michonne. I mean, just different things like that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't love somebody and hold on to that, obviously after the apocalypse, but as we've seen historically within The Walking Dead, that just doesn't work. You can't do it, right? I mean, perfect example will be, if the whole thing of whatever's going to happen with Rick this season. I think that's probably the number one most thing that people are probably, waiting for and want to know. What's going to happen with Rick? What is going to happen with Rick? I want to freaking know. Now, just as a side note, I wanted to mention something that I would love to see before Maggie exits the show, is Negan versus Maggie. I would love to see, in the comic. So here's a spoiler warning about the comic. I would love to see Negan and Maggie come face to face, and Maggie basically forgives Negan, but it's the event leading up to the forgiveness that I'm most interested to see brought to the TV show. Because Negan basically holds Maggie's gun to his head and wants her to shoot him. Will they do this before Maggie's exit? I mean, Maggie leaving, though, is the question, right? What is going to happen? How does Maggie leave? There's so many different theories out there. Does she have the baby and then something happens? She's got to get on the helicopter and now she's gone. Or is it going to be where Rick gets on the helicopter, is gone, and comes back at the end? There's just so many different rumors. Who really knows? There just has been so many rumors regarding Maggie and Rick. I just don't even know what to believe anymore. I feel like AMC is toying with us, though. If I have to say one thing that I have noticed is that AMC is definitely toying with us. Because why would they release so much information? I mean, you have Norman Reedus talking about tickling Andrew Lincoln's feet in his final moments off screen, and just all this stuff about, like, I don't know, I just feel like there's been so much information given that it seems really odd to me that AMC is toying with us like they did with Abraham and Glynn, you know, at the end of season 7 into the beginning of season 8. So it'll definitely be very interesting to see how that all kind of plays out, because, you know, I'm very interested to see. And then also, too, for any of you who've been watching Fear the Walking Dead with Morgan, we were all hoping Morgan's going to show back up in Alexandria, you know, because all of a sudden, you know, hey, they hinted at it, and we're all super stoked and excited, and then, yeah. Well, I guess everybody who watched the season finale knows what happened there. So basically, hope's lost on Morgan. Spoiler there as well. Well, I did say spoilers in the beginning, so if none of you watched it, I apologize in advance, but I did say spoilers, so yeah, but I mean, that's really all I had to say basically about it today for my part 1 of season 9 death predictions. I think all of those characters that I listed are definitely not going to make it through either the first half of season 9 or all the way through the end of season 9. Now, I am super excited. I cannot wait. I am super stoked for season 9. I think having Angela Kang come in and take over for Scott Gimple is probably hands down one of the things that's going to revigorate my excitement for, you know, what's going to be coming next, what's going to be happening now to our characters going forward, and also too with the questions of like what's happening with Rick and what's happening with Maggie. Like, those are the two biggest things, because I feel like when they got rid of Glynn, everybody's main focus was Rick and Maggie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it did really seem like the show was focusing on Rick and Maggie. And then now, come to find out, here we are coming up into season 9, and the two major characters that were focused on ever since Negan was kind of introduced are now basically leaving the show completely. I just am really interested to see how they're going to balance that. Like, how is the balancing act going to happen between, you know, when you have Michonne and Daryl and Carol and all these other characters who are going to have to step up to take over those roles. I mean, you basically have to use the entire cast to replace Andrew Lincoln. Because, like, I don't really think there's a way you can replace Andrew Lincoln, honestly. So it'll be really interesting to see how they're going to pull all of that off, because that's kind of, I would say, probably the biggest question on my mind is what's going to happen to Rick. I know there's so many things out there. What's going to happen to Maggie? What's going to happen to Maggie's baby? So definitely a lot of questions. I know that all of these questions will be answered in season 9. I am super stoked. I think the biggest question I probably have is what's going to happen with the helicopter and what's going to come from the helicopter. Because I know me and Vin have actually had a conversation that we were having about, you know, could the military ever come back into play, or could the government ever come back into play within The Walking Dead? And I personally think that it can. I think that maybe the government or the military has some kind of secret outpost that we never knew about this whole time. They were living underground or something, you know what I mean? There has to be, somebody has to survive somewhere. There's no way, you know what I mean? I feel like there's somebody surviving somewhere in the mountains that we just don't know of that's going to pop up. So definitely excited for season 9. That's pretty much it. Alrighty, guys, well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I definitely do appreciate your time. As you can tell, I'm super stoked for season 9. Are you guys super stoked for season 9? If you are, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Also, too, if you like this episode, please go ahead and slap that like button. I would really appreciate it. It definitely does help me out quite a bit. And as always, I've been TyFly85, and always remember, stay awesome.